Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Miss Personal Finance. In today's video, it'll be a continuation of our home ownership series, and today's topic is going to be income. We've already discussed the credit profile in a previous video, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, income is important because this is what you would be using to qualify for a mortgage or home loan. Now, when we talk about income, notice I said steady income. That's going to be the key to the mortgage process, being able to verify steady income. Now, whether this is full-time work, part-time work, seasonal, or self-employment, you want to make sure that you have a history of earning income for at least the last 2 to 3 years. Now, this income should be steady, continuous, and show the lender that this income is likely to continue into the future. Full-time income is pretty self-explanatory. If you are a W-2 or salaried worker, your paychecks may be monthly, semi-monthly, weekly, or bi-weekly. You just want to ensure that you have sufficient documentation to show at least a full 30 days worth of income or pay that you would need to submit. Now, part-time or seasonal income can get a little tricky because you have to show that you have the past experience already doing it and taking on 2 jobs, because that can be a tough endeavor. So let's say you just started a new part-time job overnight. If you don't have a history of already working part-time and or overnight, the lender may not see that this is likely to continue in the future. What if you start it and you don't like it? Working overnight can be taxing on your body, on your sleep, on your mental health. What if you only last a couple of weeks or months? Whereas if you have a borrower that has been working part-time overnight for the last 5 years, the lender is most likely to see that this will continue because they've already had a past or a history showing that not only can they work 2 jobs, but they can also work overnight. So don't be surprised if you provide documentation for a part-time or seasonal job and it gets denied or rejected. All that means is they won't be able to use that income to qualify you for the loan because they don't have sufficient evidence that it's likely to continue in the future to help pay this mortgage. The other tricky type of income is going to be self-employment. Now, you can qualify for a mortgage using self-employment income. It just gets a little hard because, especially if you are newly self-employed, your tax returns may not show sufficient income to cover the cost of that mortgage. For example, if you are in a business that has high expenses, maybe cost of supplies, cost of labor, employees, when you look at your tax returns for the previous year, although you have income coming in, you're maybe making a lot of money, you also have to see what your expenses are, and that net amount is what you can use to qualify for a loan. So sometimes people get shocked or surprised when they get denied for a loan using self-employment because, yes, they have made a lot of money, but they've also had a lot of expenses. So what it boils down to is something that we've already discussed in a previous video, and that's going to be your debt to income ratio. So the amount of debt versus the amount of income that you can show and verify. So your debt to income ratio is a vital component in being qualified or approved for a home loan. If your income is too low and it doesn't cover your debt, how could it also cover the increased amount of a mortgage? So that's what the lender will be looking at. So you always want to make sure that this DTI, this ratio, is lower. The lower, the better. So if you do have an issue with DTI, that means you either need to decrease your debt or increase your income. And sometimes you have to do a little bit of both, just so that you can have enough wiggle room to cover your existing expenses and debt on top of the new mortgage that you're taking out. So when it comes to income, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the lender taking a look at your ability to repay the loan, because the opposite of that is what we've discussed in the past, which is default. Default is the risk that the borrower will no longer pay or no longer be able to pay their monthly mortgage. Now, if you are a renter or live in an apartment or rental property, if you fail to pay your monthly rent, you can be subject to the eviction process. It'll be on your credit report, and that history will follow you. The same goes for a home loan. If you fail to continuously pay your monthly mortgage, the lender can start the foreclosure process. And that's essentially the lender using your home as collateral to sell off to try to recoup some of their money, some of the home loan amount that they have already loaned out to you. So to avoid foreclosure, which will also end up on your credit report and adversely impact your credit score, you want to ensure, or the lender wants to ensure upfront, that you have the ability to pay the mortgage with your existing debts, and also that income, that steady income, is likely to continue in the future, because as we know, most loans can range from 15 to 30 years with a lot of variation in between. Now, going back to the default rate, it actually ties back into the interest rate. All right, so your interest rate is based on your credit score, your credit history. The lower the rate, the better. All right, so we want to see the lowest possible interest rate because that will decrease the amount that you pay on the loan over time. Now, the riskier you are as a borrower, meaning your risk of default, the higher that interest rate is going to be, because the lender wants to make sure that they can recoup their costs of a loan and also want to get compensated for lending money to a riskier borrower. So this ties into the credit profile, the credit score that we previously discussed. The higher your credit score, the better, the lower risk you are to a lender, because they're thinking the likelihood of you defaulting on that loan is low based on your past credit history. So all of this ties into each other: your credit profile, steady income, and also assets, which we'll discuss in the next video. But if you have any questions regarding income, types of income, qualifying, please leave it down below in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification button. That's it for this video. And remember, whatever you put your energy and focus toward, you're bound to see progress.